Walk outside on a clear morning and look up. Hold that image, the pale blue of early sky, the way the light changes as the hours pass, the warm gold that arrives by noon. Now picture that same sky playing out on a perfect loop inside a building, not projected onto a flat ceiling, not a screensaver on a giant screen. A calibrated, dynamic simulation of real daylight cycling from morning through noon through dusk, engineered to give a completely enclosed building a pulse. That building exists. It is in Wuhan, China. It covers nearly 800,000 square meters of floor space. You heard that right. 800,000 square meters under one roof. That is roughly 112 American football fields connected into a single structure, 13 floors tall. And that is just the beginning. If you have ever wondered how a building gets so ambitious it has to engineer its own sun, hit a quick like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why Dream Plaza is not a bigger mall. It is the first building of a type the world has never seen before. This story starts, like most great engineering stories, not with ambition. It starts with collapse. The death of the mall. Picture a building the size of a small town. 40 stores, 60 stores, anchor tenants at each end, the big department stores, the electronics chains, the brands every family recognized, corridors wide enough for a stroller, parking lots with their own internal road systems. For 4 decades, from the 1960s through the early 2000s, this formula was one of the most reliable money-making machines commercial real estate had ever seen. Then something happened. Not slowly. In about 5 years, the internet got fast enough, logistics got cheap enough, and trust in online payments got strong enough that buying shoes, a television, or a winter coat online became not just possible but genuinely easier than driving to a building to do it. And once that tipping point arrived, the logic holding the mall format together for 4 decades dissolved from the inside. Here is what most people never think about. The mall was never really selling products. It was selling the act of going somewhere, the outing. Being inside a space that felt curated, climate-controlled, and alive with other people. The products were the excuse. The destination was the point. When the products moved online, the mall lost its excuse. And without the excuse, the destination was not compelling enough to carry the visit on its own. Because a mall corridor, no matter how wide, is ultimately a corridor. It leads from one storefront to the next. It does not surprise you. It does not give you anything to tell someone about when you get home. Here is the brutal catch. The numbers were visible before the closures came. Foot traffic at major American malls started declining as early as 2012. That is more than a decade before the wave of anchor tenant departures that made the headlines. Developers watched that data. Many understood what it meant. And the majority made the same calculation. Protect the existing model, add a few restaurants to the food court, and hope the trend reversed. It did not reverse. Between 2017 and 2022, more than 100 major enclosed malls in the United States either closed permanently or entered functional vacancy corridors still lit. Parking lots still striped, but quiet in a way that felt final. 100 malls. That is not a correction. That is the end of a category. And while Western developers were still debating whether to convert the old anchor space into a co-working office, developers in China were asking a completely different question, not how to save the mall. What was actually wrong with it? And the answer they arrived at required a building the world had never seen. But understanding what they built requires understanding the diagnosis first, and it is more uncomfortable than most people in commercial real estate are willing to say out loud. The diagnosis. There is a phrase used in product design when something has stopped working at a fundamental level. First principles. You strip everything back to the bedrock question. You stop asking how to improve the thing and start asking what the thing was actually for. Then you build the answer from scratch, without carrying forward any assumption that broke the previous version. That is exactly what China's most ambitious commercial developers did with the mall format. And the first principles question they landed on was simple. Why do people leave the house? Not, why do people shop? Why do people leave the house? Because if you can answer that correctly, you can build something that gives them a reason to make the journey regardless of whether they could have accomplished the same thing from their sofa. Here is the detail that puts everything into perspective. The answer is not to buy things. It has never been to buy things. Buying things is a task. Tasks get optimized. Tasks get automated. Tasks get handed to the most frictionless version of themselves that technology allows. The reason people leave the house, the real reason, the one that has been true across every culture and every era, is to feel something that requires their body to be present. To be somewhere that is not the inside of their own head. To experience sensory information a screen cannot transmit. Cold air, momentum, height, crowds. The particular smell of something cooking 20 feet away. The specific feeling of standing inside a space so large it has its own weather. Chinese developers named this clearly. Then they built a building around it. Now, here is the part that blows people's minds. The building they designed was not a theme park that happened to have shops in it. It was not a mall with a roller coaster bolted to the side. It was a ground-up rethinking of what a large commercial building is supposed to contain, structured around a single radical idea. The reason to go there had to be something the city outside its walls structurally could not offer. Something that required engineering. Something that only worked at scale. Wuhan is a city of 12 million people. To give that number texture, that is roughly the same population as the entire country of Belgium, living in one metropolitan area. Wuhan summers break 35 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees Fahrenheit for weeks at a stretch. Winters arrive hard. A city that size, with that climate, with a population increasingly comfortable staying home, was exactly where the old formula was going to fail fastest. It was also exactly where the right alternative had the most to offer. Every degree of summer heat outside those walls became a reason to come inside. The city's own weather became the marketing department. What they put inside that building starts with something that sounds straightforward until you realize it is operating every single day of the year, regardless of what the thermometer says outside. The theme park inside the shopping center. Think about the last time you went to an outdoor theme park. Not the rides, the logistics, the drive, the parking, the weather check the night before, the queue in the sun. The decision at 2 in the afternoon about whether the heat is making the kids miserable enough to call it a day. Now think about every day in a year when that calculation does not work out. Too hot, raining, school night. Those are the days an outdoor park does not get your visit, and they add up to most of the year. Dream Plaza solved this in the most direct way imaginable. It put the theme park inside the building. Not a gesture toward a theme park. A full-scale, multi-attraction indoor theme park occupying the lower floor's roller coasters, multi-sensory rides, immersive environments operating every single day of the year, independent of the sky outside. Here is what makes this detail so important. The word indoor does more work in that sentence than it appears to. In Wuhan, where summer temperatures push 35 degrees Celsius for weeks, an outdoor attraction is a seasonal business. It earns its revenue in a compressed window, built around school holidays, and the narrow band of weather that makes standing in a queue tolerable. An indoor attraction earns revenue on any Tuesday in August, when a family decides they need to do something today. That is not a minor operational advantage. That is a completely different business model. And the geometry of the building amplifies this, because the theme park is not bolted onto the side of a shopping corridor. It is integrated into the vertical and horizontal flow of the building, so that moving from the car park to the roller coaster takes you through retail, dining, and entertainment in a sequence designed to feel like a journey rather than a commute. You are not cutting through the mall to get to the good part. The movement is the experience. As extraordinary as the theme park is, it is still not the most radical thing in this building, because one floor up, it is winter, all year round. A ski slope in July. Imagine you are riding an escalator inside a mall on a summer afternoon. The air conditioning is doing what air conditioning does: neutral, slightly dry, comfortable. You ride up one floor, then another, then one more. And when the escalator delivers you to the next level, the air hits you like a wall. Not cool, cold. The kind of cold that tells your body something is wrong with the physics of where you are standing. You are in a city where it is 33 degrees Celsius outside. You are inside a building, and you can see your breath. In front of you is a ski slope. Dream Plaza contains a full indoor ski facility maintained at sub-zero temperatures around the clock, every single day of the year, inside a city where natural snowfall is rare and July temperatures hit the low 30s. You heard that right, sub-zero, in Wuhan, in July. Think of the building's temperature zones like a layered sandwich. Each layer has a completely different requirement. The ski floor needs to be below freezing. The floors below need to be comfortable for families in shorts. The floors above need to be warm enough for restaurants and retail. And the insulation between those layers has to be thick enough and actively managed enough that the cold does not migrate and the warmth does not creep. The engineering required to hold all of that simultaneously, at scale, is the kind of problem thermal engineers write papers about. Now here is the part that most people get wrong. Dream Plaza is not selling winter sports. It is selling sensory rupture. The cognitive dissonance of stepping from a Wuhan summer onto a ski slope in the time it takes to ride 3 escalators is precisely the point. You cannot download the cold. You cannot stream the sensation of snow under your feet. You cannot replicate the specific disorientation of moving from July into January in 30 seconds. These are embodied experiences. And Dream Plaza built an entire floor dedicated to selling them. That is the diagnosis made real. But even the ski slope is a supporting act. Because above all of it, spanning the full width of the building's central atrium, is the thing that gave this building, of all buildings, a heartbeat. The sky that tracks the sun. Stand in a large indoor space for a few hours, and something starts to happen, subtle at first. After 90 minutes inside a building with no windows, no daylight, no visual connection to the outside world, a quiet disorientation sets in. Your body knows something is off, not dramatically. The way a stopped clock feels wrong, a background absence of something you did not notice until it was gone. That something is time. Human biology tracks time using light. Specifically, the changing quality of light across a day, the cool blue of morning that signals waking, the bright neutral white of midday that signals activity, the warm amber of late afternoon, the deep violet of dusk that signals rest. These are not aesthetic preferences. They are biological signals. Your brain reads light the way it reads temperature and sound, extracting information, calibrating hormone levels, appetite, alertness, and your sense of how long you have been wherever you are. Strip that information out as every large indoor space in history has done, and the body loses its anchor. Time becomes elastic. You feel vaguely tired with no obvious cause. And eventually, without knowing exactly why, you want to leave. This is the problem every enclosed building faces. Here is the detail that engineers don't want to admit the solution was obvious once someone named the problem correctly. If the body uses light to track time, and you want people to feel comfortable staying for hours, you give the building a sky. Not a skylight, not a glass ceiling. A dynamic, calibrated, programmable overhead system that runs a complete arc of day from pale morning blue through warm amber noon, through violet dusk, cycling through every quality of natural light that human circadian biology uses to feel oriented. In time. That is what Dream Plaza built, spanning the full width of its central atrium, a space so vast it generates its own sense of scale, is an artificial sky. The color temperature shifts, the intensity shifts, the directionality shifts, and your body, reading those signals the way it has been reading them your entire life, responds as it would to the real thing. You feel the morning, you feel the noon, you feel the afternoon arriving. And because time feels natural, you do not feel the urge to escape that every other large indoor space eventually triggers. Dream Plaza won an International Property Asia-Pacific Award for Best Retail Interior Design for this system. Not for the ski slope, not for the theme park, for the sky. Because the judges understood what the designers understood. The artificial sky is not decoration, it is infrastructure. It is the single decision that makes everything else in the building work at the level it was designed to work. If that surprised you, the next part is going to be even harder to believe. Hit subscribe so you're there when we cover it. The building that solved the disorientation problem did not do it by adding more entertainment or wider corridors. It did it by giving the building a sky. And the philosophy behind that decision turns out to be a direct, deliberate inversion of the most studied example of indoor architecture designed to control human behavior ever built: the anti-casino. Las Vegas understood something about human behavior decades before most architects were willing to say it openly. The classic casino floor is one of the most intentionally engineered human environments ever constructed. Every element serves a single objective: keep you inside, keep you engaged, and prevent you from noticing how long you have been there. No windows, no clocks, lighting calibrated to a neutral level that never changes, whether it is 2 in the afternoon or 2 in the morning, pathways that curve and loop so the exit is never obvious. The casino is, at its core, a machine for erasing time. And it works because once time disappears, the friction of leaving increases and staying becomes easier than going. This logic influenced commercial architecture for decades. No mall developer ever said they were building a casino. But removing daylight, eliminating external time cues, positioning anchor stores at opposite ends to maximize walking distance. This is casino logic applied to retail. The roofed corridors, the food courts placed in the center, the deliberate absence of windows. Here is what most people get wrong. Dream Plaza looked at this entire tradition and made the opposite bet, deliberately. The design team introduced a complete simulated daylight cycle into a building where every door leads to another interior room. They gave the space a morning, an afternoon, a dusk. They told every visitor exactly what time it felt like in the most primal biological language available, and they did it on purpose. The bet was this: you do not need to erase time to make people stay. You need to make the time feel worth staying for. If the ski slope is real, if the rides are real, if the food is worth eating, and the sky above you is beautiful, then knowing that dusk is arriving does not make you want to leave. It makes you want to finish what you are doing before it gets dark, the same way you want to squeeze the last hour out of a great afternoon in a city you love. Dream Plaza keeps you inside not by making the outside disappear, but by making the inside better than the outside. That is a completely different architecture of persuasion. And it won an international award, not because it was beautiful, though it is, but because it worked. Families staying 4, 5, 6 hours without the restless drift toward the exit that every other large indoor space eventually produces. Here is what makes this incredibly exciting. If that model scales, it does not just change how commercial buildings are built. It changes how cities think about the relationship between a building and the street it sits on. And that is where this story stops being about architecture and starts being about something much larger: the uncomfortable questions and the verdict. Every extraordinary thing carries a cost. Sometimes financial, sometimes environmental, sometimes the kind that does not show up on a balance sheet at all. Start with what is most concrete. Maintaining a sub-zero ski slope inside a building fighting 35 degrees Celsius outdoor temperatures is not a modest energy operation. Add the full climate control requirements of a 13-floor, 800,000 square meter complex. Add the power draw of a dynamic daylight simulation system running continuously across a major atrium. Add refrigeration, ride systems, and kitchen infrastructure for dozens of dining venues operating simultaneously. Dream Plaza's total energy consumption has not been published in any form available for independent review. That is not unusual for commercial buildings in China. But here is what makes this uncomfortable. The absence of data does not make the consumption smaller. It makes it harder to evaluate. In a decade where energy and carbon accountability matter more each year, a building that cannot or will not quantify its environmental footprint is sitting on a vulnerability its commercial success currently obscures. Then there is the creative sustainability question, the one that has nothing to do with energy. The ski slope was genuinely astonishing when Dream Plaza opened in 2022. It is still extraordinary, but novelty has a half-life. The first time you step from a Wuhan summer onto an indoor slope, it breaks your brain. The fifth time, it is just the slope. Every experiential destination faces this. The question is not whether the novelty will diminish. It will. The question is what comes after it, and whether the building was designed with enough flexibility to answer that when it arrives. Now here is the part that nobody is talking about loudly enough. Neither of those challenges touches the deepest issue Dream Plaza raises. The deepest issue is not about the building itself. It is about what it does to the city around it. Dream Plaza is a machine for not leaving, a complete self-contained world where you can arrive in the morning and not step outside until evening, eating, skiing, riding roller coasters, shopping, and sitting under a sky that tracks the sun without once using the street, without once contributing foot traffic to the neighborhood restaurants, the independent stores, the casual encounters that make a city feel alive. Every hour a family spends inside Dream Plaza is an hour they are not spending on the street. Every meal eaten under its artificial sky is a meal not eaten at a restaurant 2 blocks away. This is the arithmetic of time and attention, and it is not speculation. Urban planners have watched this dynamic play out with edge, city retail, and big box stores for decades. Dream Plaza is a new version of the same fundamental tension at a scale and quality level that makes every previous version look like a rough draft. Here is the verdict that reframes everything you have just watched. Dream Plaza is not the largest mall on Earth. It is not, in any meaningful sense, a mall at all. It is the first working prototype of a building type that does not yet have a widely agreed name. Call it a total environment, call it an urban substitute, call it the thing that comes after the city center when the city center cannot compete on its own terms. Whatever name lands, it is the answer flawed, expensive, unresolved, and genuinely extraordinary to the question the internet asked 20 years ago and that most Western cities have still not answered. That question was simple. When buying things online is easier than going to a store, what is a reason to leave the house that a screen categorically cannot replace? Dream Plaza's answer is this: a ski slope that defies the weather, roller coasters that make adults feel like children, a beach inside an atrium so tall it needs its own sky, and then give that sky a sun that rises and moves and sets on a schedule, reminding every person standing underneath it that time is passing, that this moment is real, that their body is somewhere a delivery app cannot reach. The malls that went dark in the American Midwest did not die because people stopped wanting to go places. They died because the places stopped being worth going to. Dream Plaza is what happens when someone takes that lesson completely seriously and builds the answer without flinching at what it costs. The first building with its own sky is already open. The question now is who builds the second one and whether the cities outside its walls will be ready for what that means for every street that surrounds it. If this changed how you think about what a building can be, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss what comes next. Now I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you think Dream Plaza is the future of the city center, or is it the thing that quietly kills it? Drop your answer below. This one genuinely splits people.